You are cordially invited to celebrate the birth of P. Diddy.
What caused Will Smith, once an enthusiastic supporter of Diddy's extravagant parties, to now distance himself completely, going so far as to confront his former friend face-to-face in court?
This was bullshit. I ain't been nowhere near that man. I ain't did none of that stupid shit. So, whenever y'all hear it, if somebody say that, it's a damn lie.
There was a time when Will Smith and Diddy were nearly inseparable, fixtures in Hollywood's glittering nightlife, where top-shelf liquor flowed, beautiful women circled, and secrets danced in the shadows between beats and candlelight. Will wasn't just a guest. He was a regular, raising his glass, sometimes with his son by his side, laughing like a brother next to Diddy. But now, that laughter is gone. In a stark federal courtroom, Will stands on the other side, his words cutting deeper with every testimony, each one tightening the noose around Diddy's legal fate. This isn't just some celebrity fallout. It's the unraveling of a carefully concealed world built on fear, manipulation, and silence. It's a reckoning, and now the question looms. Can Diddy, once untouchable at the height of his empire, survive the flood of truth rising against him? Or will he be brought down by the very man who once stood at his side like family?
On a tense May Day, a federal courtroom in New York became the epicenter of global attention as Will Smith, the Oscar-winning movie star, took the witness stand to confront Sean Diddy Combs. Here, Smith's testimony wasn't just an accusation. It was a nuclear bomb exposing Hollywood's darkest secrets, where power, money, and manipulation have concealed heinous crimes for years.
I lived in fear every single day. Now I'm here not just for myself, but for my son, for my family, and for everyone Diddy has hurt.
As Will Smith began his testimony, the courtroom fell into a tense, expectant silence. With calm resolve, he traced the arc of his relationship with Sean Diddy Combs, going back to the 1990s, when both men were rising stars carving out their legacies. "We were friends," Smith said, his voice steady, but his eyes shadowed with regret. "I admired his talent, his confidence, the way he built his empire." His words hung heavy in the air, stirring sorrow and disbelief. How could a bond that once symbolized mutual respect and shared ambition deteriorate into this? Two former friends facing off across a courtroom floor. The answer, Smith revealed, lay in the now infamous private parties hosted by Diddy in his sprawling estates in Los Angeles, Miami, and New York. What seemed at first like exclusive celebrity gatherings slowly unraveled into something far more sinister. "At first, I thought they were just high-end Hollywood events. Celebrities, expensive wine, music," Smith recalled. "But soon I realized something wasn't right. There were rooms you couldn't freely leave, people watching your every move, and worst of all, cameras everywhere." Then, he presented his first piece of evidence, a 2015 email authenticated by FBI forensic experts from an account linked to Diddy. It was an invitation to a private party in Miami. One cryptic line in particular stood out. "Will, this is the last chance I'm giving you for us to connect. Don't let things get complicated," Smith explained. That after attending a few of these events, he began turning down invitations, assuming his refusal would be the end of it. But then came another email, this one anonymous. It had no message, just a short video clip. In the footage, Smith was seen in a compromising position at one of Diddy's earlier parties. He testified that he had no memory of the moment, having been drugged and unaware he was being recorded. "That's how they trapped us," he said grimly. "That's how the nightmare began." He went on to describe the party where the video was allegedly filmed. Diddy's birthday celebration, masked as a networking event for Hollywood elites. But from the moment he arrived, Smith sensed something was wrong. Black SUVs crowding the entrance, heavy security, phones confiscated, and an ominous air thick with secrecy. Inside, the mansion was dimly lit, with unsettling music, mirrored walls, and the unshakable feeling of being watched. It didn't feel like a party. It felt like a ritual. And then Diddy approached. Smith paused before recounting the words that at the time had seemed bizarre, almost laughable. But in hindsight, they felt like a warning. "Welcome to the real Hollywood," Diddy allegedly whispered. You don't get to leave unless I say so."
Will, you sat part of the family now.
With a savage grin stretched across his face, Diddy led Will Smith into a secluded back room, a place that felt worlds away from the glitz and glamour outside. What Will saw there stopped him cold. Celebrities, both men and women, were performing for an audience, not on a stage, but in disturbing, intimate scenes that felt anything but consensual. The spectators watched in silence, as if it were a twisted form of entertainment. Some of the participants, Will noted with horror, were far too young to be there. And Diddy? He just stood there, laughing, delighted by the chaos, untouched by its darkness. At that moment, Will realized he had stepped into something far more dangerous than an elite party. He had entered a hidden world, one where leaving wasn't as simple as walking out the door. From that night on, Will's life took a turn, a darker chapter that quietly unfolded over the next several decades. He described it as being caught in an invisible web of control and manipulation. Every time he declined another one of Diddy's invitations, subtle consequences followed. Big roles disappeared, film deals collapsed without explanation, and the whispers began, ugly rumors swirling through tabloids and social media. Will is gay. Will's mentally unstable. Will's cheating on Jada. None of it directly traceable, yet all of it carefully timed. Diddy never had to make a direct threat. He didn't need to. The message was chillingly clear. Will Smith, you no longer have control over your own narrative. We do.
They told me that if I didn't keep participating, the video would be sent to the media, to Jada, and it would destroy my family. I lived in fear that the whole world would see me differently, not as Will Smith, the actor, but as a failed man who couldn't protect his family.
But the most devastating moment in Will Smith's testimony wasn't about himself. It was the shocking revelation that Diddy had allegedly targeted his son, Jaden Smith. The courtroom fell into stunned silence as Will's voice trembled with emotion. According to Smith, in 2013, Diddy extended a personal invitation to Jaden under the guise of mentoring him in the music industry. At the time, given their close friendship and professional trust, Will fully supported the meeting, encouraging Jaden to seize the opportunity. Looking back, Smith called it the worst mistake of my life. He recounted how Jaden returned from the meeting visibly shaken, panicked, and emotionally closed off. Despite repeated attempts to get his son to open up, Jaden remained silent. Over time, Smith noticed a disturbing change in his son's behavior, withdrawn, anxious, and haunted. My son was no longer himself, Will said, tears rolling down his cheeks. Jaden became quiet, afraid, and I knew, deep down, something horrific had happened. But when I confronted Diddy in anger, he showed me just how powerless I was. He had the footage, he had the influence, he had the system behind him. As Smith stepped down from the witness stand, the room erupted into hushed murmurs, reporters scribbling notes, onlookers exchanging shocked glances. Diddy's legal team, led by high-profile attorney Benjamin Carter, quickly mounted a defense. Known for dismantling even the most damning testimonies, Carter dismissed Smith's claims as a crafted narrative, accusing the actor of using sensationalism to distract from his own public controversies. Most notably, the 2022 Oscars incident involving Chris Rock. "There is no such video," Carter declared confidently. "This is nothing more than an attempt to smear my client's name. Mr. Smith is exploiting the court and public sympathy without offering a single piece of verifiable evidence." Meanwhile, Diddy remained stoic at the defense table, his expression unreadable. But those watching closely noticed his fists clenched tightly, an unmistakable sign of tension beneath the calm exterior. When the judge invited Diddy to directly respond to Smith's claims, his attorney answered on his behalf. No comment. Instead, the defense submitted a series of documents, emails, contracts, and letters meant to paint the relationship between the Smith family and Diddy as purely professional. One piece of evidence stood out: a 2012 email from Will Smith thanking Diddy for supporting one of Jaden's early music ventures. The defense pointed to it as proof that there was no malice, only mentorship. But despite the paperwork, the damage had been done. The courtroom wasn't just weighing evidence now, it was reckoning with a story that shook Hollywood's foundations.
That was so incomprehensible. You know, it was just so, it's hard to understand the level of human.
Overcome by years of fear and frustration, Will Smith finally broke down in court, his voice rising with raw emotion. "You keep lying," he shouted, pointing at Diddy. "You gave me no choice." The courtroom froze as Smith continued, his anger spilling into desperation. "Every time I even thought about speaking out, I'd get a text or a call, some reminder that you could ruin me. Ruin Jaden. He was just a kid. He had his whole future ahead of him. And I had no choice but to stay silent, just to protect my son." Visibly shaken, Smith described how he was forced to keep attending Diddy's parties, how the threat of blackmail hung over him like a shadow. He claimed the price of non-compliance was clear: the release of compromising footage involving both him and Jaden. To support Smith's claims, prosecutors swiftly submitted new evidence, materials that Smith had turned over voluntarily. Among them was a disturbing collection of text messages and recorded voicemails, all sent from untraceable, disposable phone numbers between 2014 and 2019. The messages were chilling. Some read, "Don't forget who owns your silence. Speak out, and the world sees everything. One word from you, and it's not just your career that ends. It's his." These veiled threats, prosecutors argued, revealed a consistent campaign of coercion, designed to keep Smith and others under Diddy's control. The atmosphere in the courtroom shifted from shock to quiet horror as the broader implications of the testimony began to take shape. Not just a personal betrayal, but an alleged system built on silence, fear, and manipulation.
Cruelty. That was a horrific night, as you can imagine.
Adding to the gravity of the case, prosecutors introduced another key piece of evidence: a 2016 bank transaction showing that Will Smith had transferred $500,000 to a company suspected of being a shell entity linked to Diddy. This wasn't a loan. It wasn't an investment, Smith testified, his voice steady but filled with pain. "It was the price I paid to keep my family safe. But even after that payment, long after his arrest, I've continued to live in fear." According to prosecutors, the transaction was not a legitimate business deal, but a clear example of the extortion tactics Diddy allegedly used to maintain control over Smith and others within the entertainment industry. The payment, they argued, wasn't isolated. It was part of a calculated system of fear and silence, orchestrated by a man who weaponized wealth, influence, and deeply buried secrets to protect his empire.
People's bullshit. I ain't been nowhere near that man. I ain't did none of that stupid shit. So whenever y'all hear it, if somebody say that, it's a damn lie.
According to Smith's testimony, even with Diddy behind bars for months, the threats didn't stop. His associates, Smith claimed, continued to target and intimidate his family from the shadows. In those early days after Diddy's arrest, Smith admitted he tried to stay out of it. "Selfishly," he said, "I thought if I just kept quiet, if I didn't get involved, maybe it would all pass." He didn't want a courtroom showdown. He didn't want revenge. All he wanted was a chance for his family to live in peace, far from the chaos and darkness they'd been pulled into. To protect that fragile peace, Smith publicly distanced himself, going so far as to issue statements denying any connection to Diddy or the unfolding scandal. At the time, he believed cutting ties publicly would be enough. But as the pressure mounted and the intimidation persisted, Smith realized that silence only fed the cycle, and that true safety could only come through truth.
Plill, you know what I'm capable of. Don't force me to expose everything. You want Jada and the kids to live in peace, don't you? Then behave.
But things were far from the escape Will Smith had hoped for. Despite Diddy's incarceration, his network remained active, pressuring, harassing, and warning Smith to keep quiet. According to Smith, they were relentless in their efforts to ensure he made no public statements, gave no interviews, and released no damaging information that could deepen Diddy's legal troubles. Even though Smith initially complied out of fear, the pressure didn't ease. In fact, it only escalated as the case against Diddy grew more severe. They've adopted a mindset of, if we go down, we're taking everyone with us, Smith testified. And that includes me. That includes my son. As tensions flared, in the courtroom, Benjamin Carter, Diddy's high-profile defense attorney, launched a fierce counterattack. He accused Smith of fabricating a story fueled by personal vendettas, questioning the authenticity of the emails, texts, and bank records, presented as evidence. But before he could gain momentum, Olivia Harper, Smith's attorney, stood up and delivered a powerful rebuttal. Manipulators like Diddy don't leave easy trails, she said. The absence of physical video evidence doesn't invalidate the truth. That's what men like him count on: fear and silence. Harper urged the court to take the $500,000 bank transfer seriously, calling it a glaring example of extortion. Her voice rang with conviction as she added, "Will Smith has no reason to risk everything. His reputation, his career, his peace, unless it was the only way to protect his family and reclaim his life." The courtroom fell silent as her words echoed. At the plaintiff's bench, Jada Pinkett Smith sat beside her husband, visibly emotional. Reporters noted that she clutched the hand of a close companion throughout the testimony, her face streaked with tears, especially when Smith spoke about Jaden. Then came the turning point. As the trial reached a critical juncture, Smith presented a new piece of evidence that sent shockwaves through the courtroom, a secretly recorded audio clip from 2018. Captured by a former assistant, the tape featured Diddy's unmistakable voice, filled with menace as he threatened Smith over the phone. The courtroom sat in stunned silence. For the first time, Diddy's legal team had no immediate response. Their defense, confident and combative moments before, was now eerily quiet. The FBI-verified audio recording of Diddy's voice delivered a devastating blow to the defense's claim that no credible threats had been made. It was undeniable. But Will Smith wasn't finished. He then revealed a trove of disturbing evidence, showing that even after Diddy's arrest in 2024, the harassment hadn't stopped. According to Smith, anonymous phone calls began targeting his family, warning them to remain silent. One chilling email from an untraceable address read, "If you speak, those videos will be on every news outlet by morning." Harper, Smith's attorney, presented a series of threatening text messages sent to both Smith and his wife, Jada, all from disposable numbers. "This isn't the work of a lone predator," Harper told the court. "This is a system, organized, well-funded, and built to protect Diddy by silencing his victims." Diddy's legal team pushed back, insisting the messages were circumstantial and the audio could have been manipulated. But their stance faltered when prosecutors introduced an FBI report tracing financial transactions from a Diddy-owned shell company to individuals believed to be behind the threats. The report uncovered that Diddy's enterprise had spent millions on reputation management, a euphemism for intimidating potential witnesses and erasing digital evidence. One of the most damning testimonies came from a former hacker who worked for a cybersecurity firm linked to Diddy. He admitted under oath that he had been hired to locate and delete incriminating videos. Some, he revealed, survived and had since been seized by federal investigators. The final blow came in the form of a leaked internal document from Bad Boy Entertainment. Shared by a former employee, it listed VIP attendees of Diddy's private parties. Will Smith's name appeared, multiple times marked with notes like, "requires monitoring," and Priority confidentiality. While not direct evidence of criminality, the document echoed Smith's claims of being surveilled and manipulated. As the trial recessed for the day, all eyes turned to Diddy. He said nothing, but his silence was louder than words. Observers described him as a man cornered, jaw tight, hands clenched, eyes locked in a storm of rage, fear, and resignation. His attorney, Benjamin Carter, remained aggressive, but the defense was clearly shaken. Will Smith exited the courthouse slowly, visibly drained yet resolute. Facing a crowd of reporters, he stopped briefly, looked into the cameras, and said, "This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. I'm doing this for my son, for my family, and for everyone who's been hurt by this system." His words rang like a declaration, not just against Diddy, but against a powerful machine that's long thrived in silence. The press swarmed him with questions, but Smith simply shook his head, got into his car, and drove away, leaving behind a courtroom and an industry in stunned reflection. Diddy's trial is ongoing, but Will Smith's testimony has already pierced the heart of Hollywood's carefully protected image. It forces a difficult question. How many more secrets lie buried beneath fame and fortune? And more personally, if it were you on that stand, would you have the courage to speak the truth? Would you stand for justice even if it meant losing everything? Because in the end, this trial is more than celebrity scandal. It is a reminder that no one, no matter how powerful, is above the law, and that truth, once spoken, cannot be silenced.